He walked into his mansion and froze. His new wife was bathing his twins in cold water, but when he found out why, it broke his heart and shocked the entire world. The mansion gleamed under the morning sun. White marble floors, gold-framed paintings, and silence thick as fog. Alexander Grayson, a self-made millionaire, walked through the hallway with his coffee, ready to start another perfect day. Everything in his life screamed luxury, except today. Something felt off. As he passed by the guest quarters, faint giggles echoed, the laughter of children. Curious, Alexander followed the sound to the backyard. There, by the garden fountain, stood Clara, his new wife, and next to her, two tiny twins, splashing in a metal tub filled with cold water. His eyes widened. "What on earth are you doing?" he shouted, his voice sharp enough to cut through the cold air. Clara froze, her hands trembling as she shielded the twins from his outburst. "I'm bathing them," she whispered. "In cold water." Alexander's fury exploded. "Are you trying to make them sick? We have 10 bathrooms in this house, Clara." But she didn't answer. She just looked down, guilt and fear swimming in her eyes. That silence, that one broken moment, would uncover a truth that would shock everyone. Only 6 months had passed since Alexander married Clara. He was a widower. His first wife had died 3 years ago in a tragic accident, leaving him with their twin toddlers, Emma and Ethan. Clara had entered his life like a soft whisper, gentle, kind, and always caring for his children. Everyone thought she married him for money, but Alexander believed she was different. She had no expensive taste, no demands, no greed in her eyes. But after that morning, seeing her bathing the twins in cold water, doubt began to creep into his mind. He couldn't shake the image of his children shivering while Clara smiled softly as if nothing was wrong. When he questioned her later that day, she simply said, "It's how I was raised. Cold baths make children stronger." Alexander slammed his hand on the table. "This isn't a poor village, Clara. My children are not an experiment." Her eyes glistened with tears, but she remained silent, as if something was holding her back. That evening, Alexander called Martha, the family's longtime nanny. "Martha, you've been around. Has Clara ever done this before?" The old woman hesitated, twisting her hands. "Sir, Clara is a good woman, but sometimes she hides things, deep things." "What things?" he demanded. "She doesn't want to use the hot water because she doesn't think she deserves it." Alexander frowned. "Doesn't deserve it? What does that even mean?" Martha sighed. "I think she's scared of your wealth, sir. She acts like she doesn't belong here." Her words puzzled him. That night, Alexander couldn't sleep. His wife's eyes, sad, quiet, broken, haunted him. Why would someone act like that if they had nothing to hide? The next morning, Alexander followed Clara quietly. She didn't know he was watching. Instead of shopping or relaxing like other rich wives, she walked down to the basement, where old cleaning supplies and boxes were kept. She opened a trunk, and Alexander saw her pull out a small wooden frame. A picture of 2 children and an older woman, their clothes tattered but their smiles real. Clara began to cry. "Mama, I'm doing my best," she whispered softly. Alexander stepped forward. "Who are they?" Startled, Clara turned around. "Alex, you scared me. Who are those kids?" he asked again, voice low but trembling. Her lips quivered. "My little brothers. They died years ago because we couldn't afford medicine or heat. I used to bathe them in cold water, trying to toughen them up so they wouldn't get sick, but it didn't work." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Ever since then, I can't use warm water for children. It reminds me of the warmth they never had." Alexander's heart sank. In that moment, he realized the truth. She wasn't cruel. She was haunted. Days passed, and Alexander couldn't stop thinking about her words. He began noticing small details he'd missed before. How Clara would skip her own meals to feed the twins. How she'd sneak into their room at night to check their blankets. How she'd whisper prayers under her breath before every meal. The mansion staff started gossiping. "She's weird," they said. "Why does she act like a servant when she's the wife?" But Alexander knew now. She wasn't weird. She was humble. She came from nothing and carried guilt for the family she'd lost. That night, he watched her once again, this time bathing the twins, but now with warm water. She hesitated at first, her hands shaking as she turned the tap. "It's okay," Alexander said gently from behind. They deserve warmth, Clara, and so do you. Her eyes met his, full of tears and gratitude. I'm sorry, she whispered. He smiled. Don't be. I should have asked why instead of shouting. A few days later, Alexander hosted a charity dinner at their mansion. Everything was perfect until one of his business associates made a cruel joke. I heard your wife bathes your kids in cold water. He sneered. What's next? Making them sleep in the garden? The guests laughed. Clara lowered her eyes, embarrassed. But Alexander stood up, his voice booming through the hall. Let me tell you something about my wife, he said firmly. She knows the value of every drop of water because she's seen people live without it. She knows hunger because she's fed others first. While we sit in gold, she remembers where she came from. And that's what makes her 10 times richer than any of us here. The room fell silent. Clara's eyes filled with tears as the crowd looked away, ashamed. That night, she realized she didn't have to hide her past anymore. Weeks later, life in the Grayson mansion changed. 3/3. Clara started a charity foundation for children in poverty, providing warm water, medicine, and care for families like the one she lost. Every morning, she bathed the twins, now laughing in warm bubbles, and every evening, Alexander joined them, his heart lighter than ever. One day, little Emma asked, Mommy, why do we help other kids? Clara smiled softly. Because once, someone helped me, even when they didn't know it. Alexander wrapped his arm around her. And now, you're helping the world, my love. The mansion that once echoed with silence now overflowed with laughter, warmth, and love, the kind that no money could buy. Never judge someone by what you see. Every action has a story behind it. Sometimes, the kindest hearts carry the deepest scars.